on the truck with the big words anti-Semite and terrorist. And the truck would every day circle Harvard Square. Now the students complained and complained and complained about that truck, and also some websites that were set up, which gave personal information about them, which could only have been obtained from Harvard administration. On top of that, the trucks went to their family homes, not at Harvard, but hundreds of miles away, and paraded up and down the streets. Now, when this Israeli student approached the encampment, he was filming them. And they were, in my opinion, justifiably nervous that the film was going to go up on the web. Now, you can agree or disagree with them physically accosting him, but that, in my opinion, has, and here I never quarrel with facts. I concede to Nadine, she called it a question of physical assault. But Harvard called it, the report called it a clear-cut case of anti-Semitism. There was nothing, zero, that can be reckoned as anti-Semitism in that report. And in my opinion, but we could disagree, they had the right to accost him. They had the right. But we can disagree on that. I'm just saying, if that's your evidence of anti-Semitism, if that's your big proof, it's not very compelling. Now, there were things that went on in certain of the divisions of Harvard, the School of Public Health, the Divinity School, which you belong to, in this program called Religion and Public Life, right, where there was a lot of really cringy political correctness. I have no doubt about that. They had classes in settler colonialism and decolonization and de-Zionizing the Jewish mind. You know, really stupid, cringy, like Robin DiAngelo, she's going to interrupt racism. You know, these idiotic notions. Yeah, it's appalling from an educational point of view, but again, I don't see any anti-Semitism there. So, if what I'm saying is true, then how did they produce a 350-page report documenting anti-Semitism? And it was very revealing how they proved it. They appropriated the whole cancel culture, wokeness vocabulary, and they kept saying over and over again, Jewish students feel uncomfortable. Jewish students feel unwelcome. Jewish students feel unsafe. So just a couple of examples, I'm quoting from the report. A pro-Palestinian discourse equating Zionism with racism and likening Israel to Nazi Germany was deeply disturbing to many Jewish students. Regular disruptions, protests, and calls to boycott pro-Israel activities like Birthright Israel presented challenges for students wanting to engage with these programs. Jewish students found Israel Apartheid Week offensive, and they received little sympathy from pro-Palestinian activists. Well, all of that is defensible speech. The problem was that the protesters had been intellectually and ideologically disarmed because they themselves had been using the language of feeling uncomfortable, unsafe, and unwelcome. Now, that's the background. and now we get to the questions. I'm going to ask both of you, and I suspect there's going to be significant disagreement. The two slogans at the demonstrations, which were repeatedly described as making the Jewish students and Israeli students feel unsafe, unwelcome, and uncomfortable, were "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," and "Globalize the Intifada." Those were the two slogans. And as all of you know, that issue has re-arisen with Zoran Mamdani and his position on the slogan, "Globalize the Intifada." Now, I'm going to ask two very simple questions, but they're discrete questions, that is, separate questions. Number one, in your opinion, are those slogans anti-Semitic? And number two, which we basically already have the answer to, though Cornel didn't yet weigh in, are they protected speech? So I know from conversation with Nadine, she prefers not to deal with this question, but for reasons which we'll come to, I do believe she has to deal with the question. Do you believe those slogans, "Globalize the Intifada" and "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," do you believe those are anti-Semitic slogans?
Norman, I'll continue to say very stubbornly that I can't generalize. It depends on the intent, it depends on the knowledge, it depends on the context of the particular speaker. So if you're asking me, are those statements inherently based just on the word